If we take a closer look at the implementation of our base icon component, we will notice that almost every icon in our application has class called h8. For example, let's consider this icon for the button to delete activity. Let's go to the activity item component. In here we can see where this icon is used. This is this base icon component, and as we can see, it accepts attribute class with the value h8. And the thing is that almost every base icon component accepts this class. So why don't we make it a default to avoid passing this class all the time? So for example, we can go inside base icon component, and in here for this dynamic component, which is going to render particular icon, we're going to pass further property called class that we're about to declare soon. This will be a property which will store all custom classes required for a particular icon. So let's go ahead and declare this property inside define props macro. And here will be an opportunity for us to specify default value for this property. And we're doing this by using key default like this. And in this case, we need value h8. So this property will be a string, and the validator function will be is not empty string. This validator already exists in our project, so we just have to write down an import for this function right here. And also, before we can actually use this function outside of validators.js module, we need to export it first. So let's export this function by making it public this way. There is actually one error that we have to fix before proceeding further, and this error happens inside base icon component. Let's see an error message related to this property class, and most likely this error happens because class word is a reserved word in JavaScript. So let's just rename this property on something else. For example, we can use classes instead of class. And such implementation actually lets us not to pass default class every time we're about to use base icon component. So for example, inside activity item, we have just removed class attribute. And now if we're gonna take a look inside the browser and inspect this icon, we still see that the class h8 was assigned to SVG tag. So because we have earlier specified the default value for the classes property, and therefore this default value was automatically assigned to SVG tag. But if, for example, for certain icons, we will have to assign some custom classes, just like we are doing inside the header progress component. In here, we're assigning a couple more classes to base icon component. So let's just use our new property classes in order to pass these classes. And then let's go over all the components where base icon is used. And whenever we're passing class attribute with value h8, we don't have to do it anymore. So we're going to remove this attribute. Let's do it inside base select component. Same thing can actually be done inside the activity form component. Here we're also going to remove class attribute. Let's continue doing that. Switch over to the next component. And for example, inside timelines the watch component, we're using 3 icons. So let's just select all these 3 class attributes and get rid of them like this. And now let's actually test and see how that icon looks like where we're passing custom attribute classes. So in order to display this icon, I firstly have to change expression inside Vue directive in order for this icon to be displayed. And then we can go to the browser and check if those classes were properly applied. And right away I'm seeing that the icon has become green. That means all those custom classes were assigned to an SVG tag. We can see those classes in here. And if we're gonna select this icon component and inspect it inside Vue Developer Tools, we will actually see that the classes prop is going to store all those specified classes. But if we're going to inspect another icon, for example this delete activity icon, which uses only default class, these prop classes will contain only one default class, h8. And now before finishing this lesson, let's actually test if our validator is not empty string works properly. So to make it fail, I'm gonna have to pass attribute classes with an empty string. Let's do it in here and take a look in our console. Let's make sure that a proper warning will be shown. And the first thing that I'm seeing is that icon styles were changed. And additionally, our validation kicked in and showed this warning. So our validation works properly. We can go back and revert this change. So after this, our console stays clean. We can continue development in the next lesson.